brought me to the point of standing here before you today, and a lot of influences, a lot of challenges that I feel so many of us go through on our journey towards financial freedom that are often unspoken and often not really shared. We keep a lot of things taboo. So I'm very grateful to be here in order to share a little bit of that side of my life with you guys as well. And I must admit, as I stand before you today, my heart is a little bit solemn. As I am speaking here, my mother, she's actually speaking in my hometown of Memphis at my grandfather's funeral right now. And so I had a chance to talk to her before coming here this morning, and it's great to have that support and know that your family won't hold it against you, that you're missing something that's family oriented in order to engage with other people. So I think that sacrifice fills me with that gratitude and that gratefulness to be here today. So why am I here? That's a great point. I'm not a financial expert. There are some financial experts in this room, and we're going to leave it to them to drop knowledge and teach you and educate you throughout this day. And I wouldn't even say that I am perfect financially in my own life, but what I am good at is perseverance and overcoming challenges and discipline, getting through the things that try to hold us back. And so I'll share a little bit about that as well. And some of the things that I'll be talking about really deals with this element of mastery. We're here at the Brown School of Social Work, a master's program, so I thought it would be appropriate to really talk about this element of mastering, and not just mastering our pocketbooks, but getting to a place of mastery with our life and how we live our lives. So before I do that, I wanted to share a little bit more about myself. As Megan has already shared, I'm 25. I'm a student here at the Brown School, and I am a social entrepreneur. And in addition to that, there's a laundry list of stuff that I've done throughout my life, but I wouldn't even say that these are the things that have made me who I am. So who am I really? I grew up in a very small town in Mississippi called Cleveland. It's right in the Mississippi Delta, home of a lot of old blues artists, great food, but this is a town that to this day is still racially and economically segregated by a railroad that runs through the town. And of course, that segregation in many cases means white and privilege, and then poor and black. And my family, if you can't notice, we were on that poor and black side, and we lived in a part of town called the Low End. And in the Low End, there was this club that, every Saturday night you would hear gunshots and sirens because there's so much violence in that area. And on the street that we lived on, we didn't even have paved roads. And we moved from house to house to house, but we couldn't at that time afford to live in one of the new developments or navigate ourselves out of that at the time. And one of the scariest things from that part of my life that I remember very vividly, because I've always been someone who's very afraid of the dark. And maybe that's too personal to share, but in this house that we lived in, it would get so bad at night to the point where I would have nightmares and be unable to sleep because of all of the rats that were walking and running through the ceilings and through the walls. And so these types of things have driven me throughout my life to be like, well, I never, ever, ever, ever want to be back at that type of circumstance. And so despite all of this, I would say that there were some core things that helped my mother, who was a single parent, get out of these situations. And I actually consider myself someone who's privileged because we were able to navigate out of it. And this privilege that I felt came from the fact that I was able to watch my mother as a kid earn her MBA and gain access to opportunities that allowed us to move out of Mississippi into Memphis. And if you looked at where we live today, you wouldn't even know that this is where we started. I think as well, I got to witness her have this sense, this air of the hustle, to break her back and sacrifice as much as she could to make sure that my brother and myself had everything that we need. We didn't always have what we wanted, but we had what we needed. And because of these types of things that I saw through her, it's now encouraged and motivated me to live my life financially balanced. And so with this is where I started painting. I just entered high school, and I was accepted into Creative and Performing Arts High School, and I studied fine arts. And the more that they taught me how to paint, how to sculpt, I was like, well, I'm gonna, do this so well that I can sell it. And so my first painting that I sold when I was 15 sold for $300. My second painting was $1,500. And so I just kept doing that until I got to a place where by the time I was a senior, I was receiving merit scholarships, full scholarships, to all of the universities that I wanted to attend, including here at WashU. And so that's just a little bit of my own story, but there have been some key lessons that have helped me to get through all of these years. And I'll go through some of these. And as you can see, I have indeed started from the bottom, and I'm not here, but we're getting there. But with some of the things that have influenced my life and my journey so far, one is recognizing my own gift. I'm someone who firmly believes that every individual has something unique, a talent, a skill, an ability that is innate to them that can allow them to not have to settle for the commonalities of life, but to live that calling, live that passion towards what is divinely what their calling is supposed to be. And for myself, I realized very early on that my passion, my calling, my gift was in the arts. And as a youth, and partially because of the circumstances that we were in, as a youth, I pursued every opportunity possible to equip my skills and enhance this and build that and get stronger at that, so that, I was at a place where no one could tell me what I was capable of, what I could and could not do, who I was and who I was not, because of the fact that I knew where I was going. I knew what I wanted, and I knew what was being called for me to do. And so it reminds me a lot of a movie that I recently saw, this element of knowing who you are and knowing what you have and what you're capable of. You guys may have seen it. I know some of you from SBSW saw it because we were all in the theater together. But the movie 12 Years a Slave relates to some of this in the sense of how it tells the story of this man who was free during the times of slavery. His name was Solomon Northup. And Solomon was abducted and enslaved down in Georgia. And there's a scene in the movie where Solomon gets beaten, like literally to the point of bleeding and having like his skin be open from the lashes that he received, simply for the fact that he refused to identify as a slave. That's something powerful, because when you're born as a slave, you don't know any better. But when you're born free and you have that mindset that this is who I am and this is what I'm capable of, you're not going to allow anyone to tell you that you're anything otherwise. And this was a powerful moment for me, and a bit of inspiration that I wanted to share, because in many cases, here in our generation especially, we're still in a slave mentality. And so that's why I really encourage this element of becoming a master, becoming the master of your life, becoming a master of your finances. Because even though we are not physically in shackles or anything, it's our mentality, our mindsets that are still in this element of slave-like living. Meaning, let me break it down. I feel like we are at a point where we are slaves to trends. We are slaves to corporations. We are slaves to a broken work system. And in many cases, we find ourselves living so far beyond our means that we can't even get to a point where we can progress out of the circumstances that try to plague us. And I'll take it a little bit further. We're coming back from the holidays, Christmas. Christmas is one of the most commercialized holidays across the world, not just here in the United States, but across the world. And during this time of year, especially from Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, and until the New Year, corporations gross some of their highest earnings of the entire year. But while this is happening, people are getting in the most debt that they've had all year at the same time. Why? Because we allow TV commercials, other people in our lives, the Joneses, to tell us what to buy, when to buy, how to spend our money, even though we may not personally have it. Now, I don't know about some of you guys, but there are definitely some people in my life who spent a good $600, $700, $800 just this past Christmas. And right after that, as soon as January 1st hit, was struggling to pay their rent, struggling to keep the lights on, not being able to get their savings back to the place that it was, because we're stuck in this mentality that we have to buy, and buy. As another example, the workplace. So many of us in this life work day in and day out, only to be broker. As soon as we get our checks, it's already spent. Why? Because our expenses are far greater than the money that we're bringing in. And in many cases, it's the quality of the job that we have that's turning us into what is called the working poor. And this is something that we have to recognize, we have to acknowledge, and we have to overcome. I don't have the answers for how to overcome that in everyone's lives,